What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down what really moved in, go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go down 1.44%, 21.17 the low, 21.58 the high. So it was a rather odd day for SoFi. During the pre-market, you did see a lot of optimism that it was going to retest a key resistance level. But once the market did open, pretty much institutions had other plans. So there was one large transaction that really kickstarted the sell-off, and that was right here, 6.81 million. Why the selling going into the earnings, I'm not really sure, but that's what kickstarted kind of the pull lower. It wasn't significant, of course, because it only went down like 1.5%, but still, it was a rather slow day. So today we did have 40 million shares being traded, 72 is the average. It wasn't just SoFi though, it was pretty much across the board that there was very low volume, and that's something I did bring up as well in my pre-market video, because today there wasn't really that much in macro data points to really buy into, and nor was there any specific SoFi news. So no fireside chats, no news, no SEC filings or anything like that. There was one kind of thing that did come out. I was somewhat hesitant about bringing this up because, of course, I like to be more factual, but Trump kind of mentioned this. So we do know that Trump and Powell were kind of walking around that Fed building, construction and so forth. They weren't killing each other, which is always a positive thing. But Trump did mention, I don't know if he kind of spoke out of context, but just said that he thinks Powell is going to lower the rates based on, I guess, his back and forth with him. So kind of far-fetched if you think about it. Market didn't really buy too much into this, but if we kind of look at this right here, so for the September 17th meeting, now there is a 62.4% likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. That did surprisingly go up from 58.4 yesterday. So big money or institutions and retail didn't really buy into this, but behind the scenes it kind of did. So I just wanted to bring this up. Again, that might be a good thing. And again, that is going to be for the September meeting, not the July. July still looks like nothing's going to happen, as you can kind of see. Aside from all that fun stuff though, shorts just sat back and they just relaxed. So shorts did return 282,000 shares. 11.68% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 126.73 million shares overall are being shorted. As I kind of mentioned vaguely in my video yesterday, the NASDAQ did disclose through their report that ultimately between June the 29th and July the 14th, shorts returned roughly around 20 million shares more than what we previously thought. And that would have been largely through the dark pool. So these are all the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So very popular today. And so of course I think a lot of this has to do with hedge funds as well as shorts. They love to use this, and again, that's kind of the negative side of the dark pool, is it's anonymous and sometimes you don't find out until later of what shorts do. So it's kind of not necessarily the best, but then again, shorts returning that extra 20 million more than what we thought did give and kind of justifies why SoFi did move up. So definitely good to see. No substantial transactions on the dark pool today, so no like $60 million transactions or anything, because again, it was a relatively low volume. But going into the earnings, I do anticipate shorts to continue to return a little bit more. Then again, if SoFi would have been closer to that 2150 by, let's say, the close of business today, I feel like shorts might have woke up a little bit, because that was where there was a lot of like open interest through options, which I'll go over in a second. But looking at the general options, 29 million in calls, 5.2 million in puts. So definitely good to see still like a certain level of volume getting in through options, because like for instance, 6 months ago, like it'd be a surprise if you'd get like maybe 7 million. So now this seems to be the norm, getting 30 plus million every single day. So that's always a good thing. Shows that institutions are paying attention and willing to trade it, adding extra liquidity and so forth. But today, despite everything and the lower volume, 42% of all the options being done were bearish in nature. So again, not necessarily the best from that viewpoint though. So I'll go dive into it a little bit deeper on my weekend video. But for face value, the bulls are anticipating for it to be roughly around $25 as a high going into next week. Close of business Friday. So that would be encumbering their earnings. Bears are anticipating for it to be pretty much around that. There's not really much, I guess, between that $16 to $17 range in reality. But ultimately, looking at the open interest from what happened today, you have, with it closing below that 2150, that means all of this. So the big grouping right here, so 15,000 at 2150, 24,000 at 22, 40,000 at 2250, and 18,000 at 23, all expires worthless. So that is the downside of doing options. You win some, you lose some, but ultimately you have all this kind of smaller amounts all in the money. So you might see a little bit of a bump up, but most likely nothing substantial come Monday. So all of this ultimately does work out to be about 38,000 in the money options. So again, nothing overly crazy to get too excited about. With it closing at 2120, it is closing between this S2 and S3. So 2099 is going to be that key support and kind of some level that you really want to watch for it to hold. And then 2124. So today was a very volatile day. So it kind of stretched quite a lot in reality. So pretty much the S3 almost to this pivot point for the most part. So 2158 was the high. So let me know your general thoughts on that in the comments below. Aside from all that fun stuff, surprisingly, there wasn't any negative ratings this week. Very odd stuff. And normally this is, I feel like, the first time in a very long time that we have not had a negative rating the week prior to the earnings, unless, who knows, maybe it comes Monday or something. But nonetheless, though, definitely maybe that's a sign that SoFi's earnings will really move higher from post earnings. We'll have to wait and see. But going into their earnings, ultimately the consensus is 1708, and that does represent a 19.43% downside. There hasn't been any changes because, of course, as I've explained in the past, some analysts can change their estimates without changing their ratings, and I've been monitoring, so no changes to the earnings per share or the revenue. So that's pretty much where we're going to be at. So ultimately, that's kind of a good thing. So 803.11 million. And so yeah, no change over the last 4 weeks. No articles as far as dedicated to SoFi worthwhile to kind of bring up, in my opinion. So let me know your viewpoint on that in the comments below. Aside from all that fun stuff, even though over the last couple of trading days you've seen some signs of consolidation, still generally SoFi's chart looks very good above all the key pivotal moving averages, above the super trend. And because of all this kind of extra volatility recently, you have the stochastic RSI reset. And so now it is considered, going into next week, oversold. So that's a good thing. Hopefully, we have a lot of big data points and a lot of big companies unveiling their earnings next week. And obviously yours truly is unveiling their earnings. So should make for a very, very interesting time. So let me know your viewpoint on SoFi. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. One final thing, pop over to the Discord. It is completely free. A lot of good people talking about stocks, options, crypto, everything that you ever need in life. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.